They built 23 luxury cabins on my private island and then sent me a bill for trespassing. When I told them to stop, the HOA president laughed, waved her clipboard, and ordered the bulldozer to tear down the dock my late wife and I had built with our own hands. I didn't fight back that day. I let them finish. Because I already knew how I was going to end them. Mornings at the lake used to be quiet, coffee in hand, mist rising off the water. The kind of peace a man earns after 35 years as an army engineer. That morning, the quiet cracked open with the low growl of diesel engines. Across the lake, a convoy of trucks was crawling over the old causeway bulldozers, cement mixers, flatbeds stacked with prefab walls. And, on the door of each truck, the same logo, Maple Shores Community Association, my HOA. Except the thing they were driving onto wasn't community land, it was my island. 7 acres of granite and pine my father bought in 1954. I crossed the water in my little John boat, heart thudding. On the shore stood a woman in khaki pants and a crisp polo blonde hair tucked into a perfect bob, clipboard in hand like a weapon. "Can I help you?" she said in that sharp tone that really means state your business and get off my property. "I'm Jack Rains," I told her. "This is my island. Your crew must have taken a wrong turn." She smirked. "No mistake, Mr. Rains. I'm Karen Hensley, president of the HOA. This parcel is designated common property. Phase 3, construction starts today." I tried to stay calm. Engineers solve problems, we don't scream them. "Ma'am, that's impossible. My family's owned this land for 3 generations. I've got the deed." She tapped her clipboard. "Then you'll have no trouble proving it." That was the first trap. The second came a week later, a certified letter fining me $250 for encroachment on my own island. And the third came the morning the bulldozer roared down the shoreline. I shouted for them to stop. Karen just watched, arms folded, smiling, while 60 years of family memories splintered and sank beneath the waves. I called the county, filed complaints, believed the system would set things right. When the inspector finally showed up, Karen arrived too, with a lawyer and a binder thicker than a Bible. He flipped through glossy plats, stamped and sealed. The inspector glanced once at me, a gray-haired man with nothing but a story, then handed the binder back. "Looks in order," he said. "Civil issue, sir." Then he left. Karen's smirk could have curdled milk. The next morning, her crew fenced off the causeway and hung a huge aluminum sign. "Private access residents only." They had literally locked me out of my own land. Neighbors whispered sympathy but kept their distance. Everyone in Maple Shores feared the fines, the citations, the gossip threads on the HOA's Facebook page. I was alone. Weeks passed. Nights were sleepless. I kept hearing Helen's laugh as we'd hammered the dock boards together, the splash of the lake, the life we built there. That memory hurt worse than the noise of saws cutting down the pines. One night, I told myself maybe my daughter Dana was right. Maybe it was just land. Maybe I was being a stubborn old fool. But when I looked across the water and saw floodlights blazing on that island, I felt something change. The anger burned away. What was left was colder, quieter. A plan. If they wanted to build on my land, I'd let them finish. While they hammered and painted, I drove to the county seat twice a week, digging through dusty archives. I wasn't looking for my missing deed anymore. I was looking for theirs. And I found it a developer plat filed locally but never registered with the state. Without that seal, it was legally worthless. They had built a multi-million-dollar resort on air. Then I visited an old friend, Earl Sutton, the retired county surveyor. Over coffee, he studied a faded map I'd found in my workshop, my father's survey from 1956. "I remember this job," Earl said, tracing the lines with a steady finger. Hemlock used iron pins at every corner, 3/4-inch rebar, driven 5 feet into the rock. Paper lies, Jack. Iron doesn't. He gave me the original coordinates from his old logbooks. I hired a young vet's surveying company, told them nothing about the drama, just asked for a full boundary verification. 2 weeks later, a courier delivered a heavy envelope official seal embossed in blue. The results were precise. Every single one of the 23 cabins sat squarely, completely inside my property line. I notarized the documents, filed a quiet title action, with the county court a legal motion that asks a judge to settle ownership once and for all. The HOA never even responded. 31 days later, I stood before Judge Patterson. He reviewed my evidence, glanced at the empty defense table, signed the order, and with one crack of his gavel, Rains Island was legally mine again. They just didn't know it yet. Karen's arrogance kept feeding me ammunition. She gave interviews bragging about the project, calling me a bitter recluse. Her board fined me again $200 for verbal harassment the day they'd bulldozed my dock. Then, my insurance company dropped me citing liability from property disputes. That was her kill shot. Without insurance, I could lose my home. That night, I stood on the shore watching the cabin's lights reflect off the water. They looked permanent smug. I whispered to the darkness, "You think you've won? Let's see." The next morning, I drove into town and filed another set of papers, this time with the County Environmental Division. I attached my court order, my certified survey, and a list of every code and EPA violation those cabins committed. Bureaucracy moves slow when it's helping you, but lightning fast when it smells a lawsuit. By sunrise, 3 white county trucks rolled across the causeway. I watched through binoculars as they plastered bright orange. "Stop work, do not occupy." Stickers on every cabin door. Karen's shriek echoed across the lake when they tagged her model unit. It was the sweetest sound I'd heard in years. That night, my phone buzzed with a mass email, "Urgent community meeting. Resident obstruction." I knew she was going to try to crucify me in front of everyone. The community hall was packed, standing room only. Karen stood at the podium, red-faced, voice shaking through the microphone. "We have spent millions improving this community," she shouted. "And one man, because of a personal vendetta, is sabotaging all of it. We will not be intimidated. We're filing an immediate lawsuit against Jack Rains. We will take his house if we have to." The crowd roared, angry, confused. I let it build, then started walking down the center aisle. The room quieted, 1 row at a time. Karen saw me and sneered. "Oh, look who decided to show up. Got something to say for yourself, Mr. Rains." I didn't take the mic. I walked straight to the board table, reached into my jacket, and laid a thick document on the wood. The sound, thud, was sharp enough to cut through the silence. "Before you file that lawsuit, Karen, I said you might want to check your paperwork." She snatched it up, eyes darting. This is fake. We have the plats." I leaned close enough for only her and the board to hear. "Your plats were never recorded. My deed is court-verified. You didn't expand the community, you built 23 luxury cabins on my land." Gasps rippled through the room. Then the back doors opened. A man in a county uniform stepped in. Cliff Marks, the records clerk I'd called earlier. He looked uncomfortable as he took the mic Karen had abandoned. That he said, nodding to the document in her trembling hands, is an official court order signed by Judge Patterson 3 days ago. I processed it myself. The silence was absolute. One board member stood. "Karen, is that true? You told us the land was cleared." The dam broke. Voices exploded, accusations, questions, shouts. "You used our fees for this. My husband warned you the mob she'd built turned on her." Karen pounded the podium, screaming, "This meeting is adjourned." But no one listened. The doors swung open again. This time, 2 sheriff's deputies. My daughter Dana was right behind them, phone raised, recording everything. The female deputy stepped forward, voice calm and cold. "Karen Hensley, you are being served with a cease and desist order for trespassing on private property, as well as citations for multiple environmental and building code violations. You are to vacate the premises immediately." Karen's face collapsed. The clipboard-wielding tyrant was gone, just a frightened woman surrounded by cameras. She wailed, "You can't do this to me." As the deputies led her out through the flashing bulbs of the press she herself had invited. I stood there, the noise fading behind her. Months of rage, humiliation, and grief melted into quiet relief. I picked up her gavel from the table, the symbol of her petty power, and set it down gently. Sometimes justice doesn't need to shout. It just signs its name in blue ink. Lesson: never let bullies hide behind paperwork. Truth, like iron in the ground, doesn't move.